Cristiano did not start this game. Obviously, he's been linked all summer. We all know the background to it. I was in Istanbul on Thursday, as you know.
Yeah.
I was in the lift with the sporting director Hugo Viana, and I just kind of asked him like, "Oh yeah, so you getting ready for Cristiano?" He's like, "No, he's not coming." Now it's not a scoop. It's kind of a throwaway, jokey comment, but of course that's been what they've been saying all along.
Yeah.
So assuming Sporting Lisbon on one side, the buzz now is Napoli. This seems to be a deal that's been entirely created by George Mendes. The deal, as it's been reported in Italy, seems to me like on paper potentially a good deal for Napoli. 130 million, but it involves Victor Osimhen signing for Manchester United. The idea is Manchester United pay 130 million euros for Victor Osimhen, taking their summer spending to several billion. Napoli get Cristiano Ronaldo, but Manchester United spend 85% or pay 85% of Cristiano's wages.
So Cristiano goes there on loan then.
I would be a loan. He's going to go a year plus an option. So whichever way you swing it. This seems like a deal that's made in Mendes.
Massive.
On those terms, it doesn't really make sense for United, does it?
I don't think so. Although Osimhen and we are big fans, I would love to see Osimhen at United with Ten Hag in the Premier League. That would work, but still paying 85% of Cristiano's 25 million net a year wages is a lot on top of what you're going to pay Osimhen as well. Do you think that's a deal realistically that can happen, or is it one is too late because there's only a few days to go until Thursday, and it's too complicated, and United surely could say this is not a good deal for us, kind of thing, or even Napoli, I don't know.
I think those are great questions. So I don't think it's necessarily complicated in terms of making the figures work, because the most difficult figures are going to be the figures pertaining to Cristiano Ronaldo's salary, right?
Yeah.
Because Napoli can say, well, we only want to pay 15% of the salary, let's say, right? I think it probably will be a little bit more, but 15% of Ronaldo's salary is still a big number, by the way. And then if United don't want to pay 85%, that's when Cristiano takes a step back and says, all right, fine. I'll cut this much, right? It doesn't matter to Napoli whether United pays it or whether Cristiano takes a pay cut, right? So that part is pretty easy. Napoli are in the Champions League. I think that part's straightforward. So the question is, anyway, it's no coincidence, that part's straightforward because Cristiano's agent, George Mendes, is putting this together, right? So then there's two separate questions. Is this a good deal for Napoli? I think 130 million, I think, is a fair price for Victor Osimhen.
Yeah, I agree.
So if you look at it purely from a numbers perspective, you say, yeah, this makes sense. They might not give me 130 million. He had injuries last season, he had the mask, whatever. I might not get this again, right? On the other hand, Cristiano Ronaldo for Victor Osimhen just simply blows up your team.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into who's better, who's worse, blah, blah, blah. They both score goals, but they're completely different players.
Yeah.
And they had something good going with, Lozano was productive, Kvara, Politano showed up. They've added Raspadori. Yeah. It does say, all right, how is Spalletti going to go and make this work? So they have to think about that too. They have to think about that because they're in the Champions League, because they want to be back in the Champions League next season. Is Cristiano going to necessarily help them do that? People are going to bring up, the return, the image, blah, blah, blah. As we've said before many, many times, Cristiano Ronaldo knows his value. George Mendes knows Cristiano Ronaldo's value. So it's not like when you sign Cristiano, all of a sudden you get all this extra money. You do get a ton more attention, and you can monetize that. And it's also nice because either United or Cristiano's pay cut will make up for that salary.
Yeah.
So financially, I think it may well make sense for Napoli. In terms of the playing style on the pitch, I think it makes very little sense, and you got to put a lot of faith in Spalletti.
Yeah, I agree with you. And if I was Spalletti, I'm not sure I would be ready right now to. I don't know how much he can say yes or no anyway. And De Laurentiis might say I don't care what you say, I'm doing the deal. Fair enough. But if you're Spalletti, you need to almost start from scratch again. Then if Cristiano arrives and you think, okay, maybe we have to play two up front, so him and Raspadori, what you do with the wingers, suddenly it's all a complete different system, different style, different everything.
Yeah, him and Raspadori, by the way, not necessarily natural fit.
Exactly.
We've seen in the past, Cristiano, when he's played in the front too, it's been with somebody who's sort of a bigger, stronger, mobile type of center forward. From United's perspective, again, I think this is where it makes sense sporting-wise. I think Osimhen is a phenomenal striker.
Yeah.
I think he would settle in quite well in the Premier League.
Completely.
He seems ideally suited in many ways to Ten Hag's game.
Completely.
Where it doesn't make sense, perhaps, is and of course you move Cristiano out, which we heard from Duncan Castles, who is very close to the Mendes camp, and he laid out all the reasons why Cristiano wants to leave or may want to leave Manchester United. So so you move him out, and you're Ten Hag, you've got more freedom. The problem is the numbers. The numbers. This gets really, really expensive.
But and we go back to the usual transfer strategy and recruitment policy, and why have you not targeted a number 9 earlier in the summer, when like an Osimhen?
Well, they did. They targeted Marco Arnautovic, remember?
Yeah, exactly. But if you had gone for Osimhen on the 1st of July, for example, and you know, do things properly as a big club and put the money on the table, Osimhen might be your player now, because it's still not new that you need a number 9, like a really, really, really good one, especially when Darwin has gone to Liverpool and Haaland has gone to City and Lewandowski has moved to Bayern, you know, and you'll be left behind with still Martial, who I love and he's my boy, and Marcus Rashford, who I'm not even sure is a number 9 anyway. And now we're in this position where you're trying to scrap this deal, or you've been offered this deal where, yeah, maybe you would take it, but it would cost you like an arm and a leg and a whole body.
Yeah. And, you know, it's funny because you go back, we have the sense of United as being this, you know, club that can pretty much print in money and they're always profitable and so on. And this would take the spending. I mean, if it is Antony and Osimhen, you're adding another $250 million, right, to what you've already spent this summer. More than that, depending how much of Cristiano's salary you have to take on. Now, Richard Arnold, remember when he had his meeting in the pub with the fans? You know, he said, well, the money's always been there. They've always spent money, blah, blah, blah. They brought up that silly £1 billion number. But he says, but the money might not always be there. And so I think that changes the dynamic a little bit, because he's the one who has to sign off on this. And if, God forbid, they do this and they don't qualify for the Champions League, again, for example, you have the sponsorship deal, which gets reduced.
Yeah.
You have all sorts of things coming together, which I'm not sure that leaves them in a very good pace. It's also putting a lot of trust in Ten Hag, which, you know, you want to see happen, but you want these decisions to be shared out. That's why you have a high-profile director of football who makes these decisions. And that's why, for me, one of the questions that I would ask, I hope Richard Arnold is asking, is if we wanted Osimhen, if we wanted a center forward, like you said, why did we wait all summer long to do this? Why did we ponce around with this silly, fluid front three or whatever? Like, you know, we were always going to try to shift Cristiano. That was obvious, right?
Yeah.
So what, were we going to pretend that Cristiano was going to be our center forward? No.
No, completely. I agree with you completely. And I think that if you end up the transfer window with the summer with Malacia, Lisandro, Eriksen and Antony, is that a good transfer?
Casemiro.
And
Osimhen.
And Casemiro. Okay, I forgot Casemiro. Okay, Casemiro, I think, makes your team much, much, much better. There's no doubt. It makes your summer much better in terms of transfer recruitment, although, again, there's still no strategy, but still. But is that enough? Or could you have easily added maybe a right back and a centre forward or another midfielder? I don't know, something like that. I don't know.
Well, it's always about resource allocation, right?
Yeah.
Could you have spent this money better? And I don't think, again, you can't shake this idea, the fact that all these guys, obviously Osimhen's not there yet, are either players that he has worked with before, or he has played against, or who played for Ajax, or who he watched on TV with Casemiro. This is the part that leaves you wondering, you know, for me, I don't want to criticize Murta and Fletcher because it's difficult because they have to.
I can.
Okay, but what I'm saying is their job isn't easy, right? They have to.
I know, but
they have to, as they love to say in this country, back Ten Hag, right? But at the same time, make decisions for the long-term well-being of Manchester United, because otherwise, you know, they're just rubber stamping every move. It's a difficult balance when you don't have a lot of experience, when you haven't done this before. You have a new chief executive as well. It's interesting. We'll monitor this. Yeah. On Cristiano, obviously, Naples has a long history of loving its superstars going back to Diego Armando Maradona. he's not going to have an issue there in terms of the relationship with the fans or anything, is he? I mean, no.
Can you just imagine the reception? Because he will get an amazing reception. Of course, he will at the airport when he lands, if he lands. It's going to be crazy. And he will love that. And I think this is also what he wants. This is what he wants. You know, he wants people to show that love and that gratitude and that excitement and all of this, which I can understand completely. And I would love to see it in a way. I would love to see him. I would love to see him in Serie A. I would love to see him at Napoli with the fans, that stadium full, ready for Cristiano, anything you want. Just not sure it makes a lot of sense.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.